The blade sliced through skin and muscle before Maya even registered the movement. Hot blood bloomed across her white t-shirt, spreading like spilled wine on cotton. The pain came second, sharp and burning, but her body had already committed to the arc of her swing. Her fist connected with the robber's jaw and he staggered backward, the knife still slick with her blood clenched in his trembling hand. It could have been the old lady. That single thought burned through the haze of shock as Maya stumbled between the elderly Korean woman and the three men who'd cornered them in the narrow alley behind the grocery store. The woman's designer purse lay on the cracked asphalt, its contents scattered like fallen stars. A phone glowed face up near a puddle, its screen still lit, a call still connected. "You crazy bitch!" the one who'd stabbed her snarled, his face twisted with rage and surprise. He was young, maybe 20, with a spiderweb tattoo creeping up his neck. "That wasn't meant for you." Maya didn't waste breath on words. She'd learned years ago on these same streets that talking got you killed. The second attacker lunged for the purse again, and she kicked it away, sending it skidding toward the old woman who'd pressed herself against the brick wall, her eyes wide with terror, but something else too. A strange, calculating awareness that didn't match her fragile appearance. Blood ran warm down Maya's side, soaking into her jeans. She could feel it pooling in her shoe. The world tilted slightly, but she forced her legs to lock, forced her hands to stay up. 3 against 1, she'd faced worse odds. She'd survived worse wounds. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. You won't want to miss what happens next. The third man, broader than the others with a scar bisecting his eyebrow, pulled out a switchblade. "Boss said no witnesses. That means both of them now." Boss. The word registered through Maya's pain. This wasn't a random mugging. "Run!" Maya said to the old woman, not taking her eyes off the 3 men. "Now!" "I cannot leave you," the woman started, her accent thick, her voice stronger than Maya expected. "I said run!" The scarred man moved first, fast for his size. Maya sidestepped, using his momentum against him, slamming her elbow into his kidney as he passed. He grunted, stumbled. The knife wielder came at her again, and this time she caught his wrist, twisted hard. Bone cracked. He screamed, and the blade clattered to the ground. But the third one tackled her from the side. They hit the pavement hard, and the impact drove the air from Maya's lungs. Her stab wound screamed in agony. Stars exploded across her vision. The man's hands found her throat, squeezed. She could smell cigarettes and beer on his breath, see the gold tooth that flashed when he grinned. "Should have minded your own business," he hissed. Maya's hand scrambled across the dirty ground, found a piece of broken bottle. Glass bit into her palm as she gripped it and drove it into the man's shoulder. He howled, rearing back, and she bucked him off, rolling to her feet though her body screamed in protest. The old woman hadn't run far. She'd grabbed her purse, was clutching it to her chest, but her eyes were locked on something beyond Maya, the phone, still glowing on the ground, still connected. "Jinwoo," she called out toward it, her voice cracking. "Jinwoo, please." The scarred man recovered, grabbed the old woman's arm. She cried out, and something happened. She pressed her free hand to her chest, her face suddenly pale, breath coming in short gasps. Maya saw red. She launched herself at him, all technique abandoned now, just pure fury and desperation. Her first punch caught him in the throat. He choked, released the old woman. Maya's second punch never landed. The knife wielder, cradling his broken wrist, kicked her injured side with his boot. The world went white with pain. Maya collapsed to her knees, pressing her hand to the wound. Blood welled between her fingers. Too much blood. The alley spun. She could hear the old woman crying, could hear the men's heavy breathing, could hear something else too. A voice coming from the phone, deep and commanding and absolutely furious. "Yama? Yoma? Your son can't save you, old woman," the scarred man said, advancing on them both, "and neither can this stupid hero." Maya tried to stand. Her legs wouldn't cooperate. The blood loss was catching up, dragging her down into a dark undertow. But she could still move her arms. When the man reached for the old woman again, Maya grabbed his ankle and yanked hard. He went down cursing, and in the chaos, the old woman grabbed the phone. "We're behind the H-Mart," she gasped into it, still clutching her chest with one hand. "Jinwoo, the alley behind!" The knife wielder snatched the phone from her hand and threw it against the wall. It shattered, went dark. "Enough of this," he snarled, turning to Maya. "You first, then her." Maya's vision was tunneling now, black creeping in from the edges. She could feel her heartbeat in her ears, too fast, too weak, but she got her feet under her one more time, stood, swayed, raised her fists. The three men stared at her like she was insane. Maybe she was. Maybe you had to be insane to throw yourself between a stranger and danger. Maybe you had to be insane to keep fighting when your body was shutting down. But Maya had been fighting her whole life. She'd fought poverty, fought hunger, fought the streets that tried to swallow her whole. She'd fought to build a life, a family, fought to protect them. And she'd failed. Her husband, her son, both gone, ripped away by violence as sudden and senseless as this. She wouldn't fail again. Not today. Not this woman. "Come on then," Maya said, her voice steady even as blood dripped from her fingertips. The scarred man pulled out a gun. The old woman screamed, but before he could aim, sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Someone had heard the commotion, called the police. The three men exchanged glances, and fear finally overtook their determination. "We're out," the scarred man said. "Tell your boss we tried, but this crazy bitch—" "He's going to kill us," the knife wielder whimpered, still cradling his broken wrist. "Better him than a murder charge. Move." They ran, disappearing into the maze of alleys behind the strip mall. Maya watched them go, waited until they were truly gone. Then her knees buckled. She hit the ground hard, but barely felt it. The old woman was there immediately, cradling Maya's head in her lap, pressing her expensive silk scarf against the wound. "You foolish, brave girl," the woman whispered, tears streaming down her face, still breathing too fast. "Why? Why would you do this for a stranger?" Maya tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come. The darkness was pulling her under now, relentless. She could see her son's face in it, his bright smile on his 8th birthday, the last birthday they'd celebrated together. Could see her husband's eyes, the way they crinkled when he laughed. "I'm sorry," she thought. "I tried to save someone this time. I tried to be brave enough." "Stay with me," the old woman commanded, her voice suddenly sharp with authority, despite her labored breathing. "Do you hear me? You stay with me. My son is coming. He will help you. He will—" But Maya was already falling into the dark. Drop a like if you're wondering what happens next. And trust me, you need to stay for this. The darkness had teeth. It bit and tore and pulled Maya down into depths where pain couldn't reach her anymore, where memory dissolved like sugar in water. Somewhere far above she could hear voices, urgent, commanding, afraid, but they were just sounds without meaning, echoes in a vast emptiness. When consciousness flickered back, it came in fragments. The sensation of movement, the smell of leather and expensive cologne, strong arms carrying her, and a voice, male, cold as winter steel, issuing orders. "Get Dr. Yoon, now. I don't care if he's in surgery. Pull him out. 5 minutes or I'll pull his spine out." "Yes, boss. Find those 3 and bring them to me alive. I want to know who sent them." "Already tracking them, sir." "And get my mother to the car. Carefully. Check her vitals. She's having trouble breathing. If she has so much as a bruise—" "She's unharmed, boss. Just shaken. The woman, she took everything meant for your mother." A pause. The arms holding Maya tightened slightly. "What's her name?" "We don't know yet. No ID on her. But boss, she fought like... I've never seen anything like it. 3 men, and she... I heard it. Every second of it." Maya tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids were lead. Tried to speak, but her tongue was cotton. The wounds on her body pulled and burned, but distantly, as if they belonged to someone else. She was aware of being placed on soft leather seats, of an engine purring to life, of motion and turns and the muffled sounds of traffic. Will she live? That cold voice again, closer now. I don't know, son, the old woman's voice shaking, still breathless. There was so much blood. She wouldn't stop fighting. Even when she could barely stand, she wouldn't. A sob broke through. She saved my life. She's not dead yet, Iyama. I won't let her die. It wasn't said with warmth or compassion. It was stated as fact, as immutable as gravity. When this man said someone wouldn't die, Maya believed him. There was power in that voice, the kind that bent the world to its will. Who was he? The question dissolved before she could chase it. The darkness returned, gentler this time, pulling her away from the pain into something that felt almost like sleep. When awareness came again, it was to the smell of antiseptic and the murmur of medical equipment. Maya's eyes fluttered open to an unfamiliar ceiling, white, pristine, recessed lighting that was blessedly dim. She tried to move and immediately regretted it. Pain exploded through her left side, sharp and vicious, stealing her breath. Don't move! A man in glasses appeared in her field of vision, middle-aged, wearing a white coat. You've had surgery, 15 stitches internal, 23 external. You're lucky the blade missed your kidney by centimeters. Lucky. Maya almost laughed, but it hurt too much. She tried to speak, managed only a croak. Water, the doctor said, lifting her head slightly and holding a straw to her lips. Small sips. The water was cold and perfect. It cleared the dust from her throat, brought the world into sharper focus. She was in a bedroom, she realized, not a hospital. A very expensive bedroom with silk wallpaper and art that probably cost more than she'd earned in her entire life. Medical equipment crowded one corner, monitors, an IV stand, a crash cart. Where, she managed? Safe, the doctor said. That's all you need to know right now. The woman, the old woman, is she? Mrs. Choi is fine, thanks to you. The doctor's expression softened slightly. You're quite the fighter. I've worked in emergency rooms for 20 years, and I've rarely seen anyone keep going with a wound like that. Maya closed her eyes. The old woman was alive. That was something. That was enough. I need to leave, she said, trying to push herself up despite the doctor's protests. I have work tomorrow and my rent is... You're not going anywhere for at least a week. This voice wasn't the doctor's. It came from the doorway, and it sent a chill down Maya's spine. She turned her head, ignoring the spike of pain, and saw him for the first time. He was tall, probably 6'2", built lean and dangerous under an impeccably tailored black suit. His face could have been carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut. Glass and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His black hair was styled back from his forehead, and a single silver earring glinted in his left ear. But it wasn't his appearance that made Maya's breath catch. It was the way he carried himself, the absolute certainty in his posture that said he owned every space he entered. And the coldness in his gaze, the complete absence of warmth, as if all humanity had been burned out of him long ago. Who are you? Maya demanded, though her voice came out weaker than she wanted. The son, he said simply, moving into the room with the fluid grace of a predator. Jinwoo Choi, you saved my mother's life. I didn't know she was anyone's mother. She was just... Maya struggled for words through the fog of pain medication. She needed help. And you provided it. Jin stopped at the foot of her bed, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. At great cost to yourself. Why? Why not? Most people would have kept walking. Called the police, maybe, but not intervened directly. Certainly not against 3 armed men. Maya met his gaze steadily. I'm not most people. Something flickered across Jin's face, too quick to identify. No, you're certainly not. He turned to the doctor. How long until she's mobile? A week, minimum. Possibly 2. The wound was deep and she lost a significant amount of blood. She needs rest, proper nutrition, and she'll have it. Prepare a room for her in the East Wing. Post guards. Guards? Maya tried to sit up again, and this time made it halfway before the pain forced her back down. I don't need guards. I don't need any of this. Just let me go home. Jin's eyes narrowed. You don't have a home. The words hit like a physical blow. Maya's breath caught. How did he... My men did their research while Dr. Yoon operated on you. Maya Johnson, 34, widowed 3 years ago. Evicted from your last apartment 2 months ago for inability to pay rent after losing your job at the warehouse. Currently staying at the women's shelter on 5th Street and working night shifts cleaning offices downtown. Jin's voice was utterly emotionless, reciting facts about her life as if reading a grocery list. No living family, no close friends, no one who would even notice if you disappeared. Each word was a knife. Maya felt her eyes burn, but she'd be damned if she'd cry in front of this man. So you looked into me, she said, forcing steel into her voice. That doesn't give you the right to keep me here. I'm not keeping you here. Jin moved closer, and Maya caught the scent of his cologne, something dark and expensive. I'm offering you a choice. Leave now, go back to the shelter, back to scrubbing floors for minimum wage, back to being one missed paycheck from the street. He paused, let that sink in. Or stay here until you're healed. You'll be fed, housed, and when you leave, you'll leave with compensation for what you did for my mother. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money, they just don't always admit it. I'm not everyone, Maya threw his own words back at him. For the first time, Jin's expression shifted. The corner of his mouth might have lifted, might have been the ghost of a smile, though it was gone too quickly to be sure. No, he said softly, you're not. The door opened again, and the old woman, Mrs. Choi, hurried in. She still looked slightly pale, moved a bit more carefully than someone her age normally would, but she was dressed in an elegant hanbok in deep blue silk, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her eyes lit up when she saw Maya awake. Oh, you're awake! Thank the heavens! She rushed to the bedside, taking Maya's hand before Maya could protest. I've been so worried. Dr. Yoon said you would be fine, but I couldn't rest until I saw you with my own eyes. Her hands were warm, surprisingly strong. Maya found herself squeezing back without meaning to. I'm okay, Maya said. You don't need to worry about me. Are you all right? In the alley you were holding your chest. Just stress, the doctor says. My heart gets excited sometimes. Mrs. Choi waved it away, but Maya noticed Jin's jaw tighten. But you, child, you took a knife meant for me. You fought 3 men while bleeding. You saved my life. Mrs. Choi's eyes filled with tears. I will worry about you for the rest of my days. Comment below if you think she should trust them, because what happens next will blow your mind. Something in Maya's chest cracked at the raw emotion in the old woman's voice. When was the last time someone had worried about her? When was the last time anyone had looked at her with something other than pity or contempt? It's what anyone would have done, Maya said quietly. But no one else did, Mrs. Choi said firmly. Only you. And now you are under my protection, do you understand? For as long as you need it. Jin started, his voice holding a warning. Don't yama me, Mrs. Choi snapped, rounding on her son with surprising ferocity. This girl is a hero. She will be treated with the respect and care she deserves. I agree completely, Jin said, his tone placating, which is why I've already arranged for her to stay here during her recovery. Good, Mrs. Choi turned back to Maya, her expression softening. You must be hungry. I'll have the kitchen prepare something. What do you like to eat? Maya's stomach chose that moment to growl audibly. She couldn't remember her last real meal. Anything is fine. I'm not picky. Nonsense. Everyone has preferences. Mrs. Choi patted her hand. I'll have them prepare a variety. You need to rebuild your strength. She swept out of the room with the bearing of a general, leaving Maya alone with Jin and Dr. Yoon. The doctor busied himself checking the monitors, adjusting the IV drip, seemingly determined to ignore the tension between his patient and his employer. Jin remained at the foot of the bed, studying Maya with that unnerving intensity. Your mother seems nice, Maya said, because the silence was worse than conversation. She is. Too nice sometimes. It makes her a target. Those men, They were specifically targeting her, weren't they? It wasn't random, Jin's expression hardened. That's not your concern. They had a boss. They said boss said no witnesses. Who sent them? Not your concern. Each word was clipped, final, but Maya had survived too much to be intimidated by a cold voice and hard eyes. It became my concern when they stabbed me. It became my concern when I nearly died in that alley. And you were compensated for your trouble. I don't want compensation. I want answers. Jin moved then, sudden and fluid, closing the distance between them until he stood right beside her bed. He leaned down, bringing his face level with hers, and Maya saw something dangerous flicker in those dark eyes. You want answers. Here's one. My world is not a place for people like you. It's dark and violent, and it destroys good things. My mother is kind because I've built walls high enough to protect her kindness. But those walls can't protect you, Maya Johnson. So take my advice, heal, take the money, and go back to your life. Forget you ever met us. And if I don't want to forget, then you're more foolish than brave. They stared at each other, neither backing down. Maya could feel her pulse hammering against her ribs, could smell his cologne mixing with the antiseptic smell of the room, could see the faint scar that bisected his left eyebrow. Up close, he was even more striking, and even more terrifying. Dr. Yoon cleared his throat loudly. Boss, she needs rest, no stress. Jin straightened, stepping back. The moment broke, but the tension remained, crackling in the air between them. Rest, he said, his voice returning to that emotionless tone. We'll discuss your future when you're stronger. He left without waiting for a response, his footsteps silent on the expensive carpet. Dr. Yoon fussed with the monitors for another moment, then followed, leaving Maya alone in the beautiful, sterile room. She stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything that had happened. 12 hours ago, she'd been heading to work, just another invisible woman in a city full of them. Now she was lying in what was clearly a mansion, having been saved by a man who frightened her almost as much as he fascinated her, having been claimed as someone worth protecting by a woman who was apparently important enough to warrant assassination attempts. What the hell had she gotten herself into? The answer came sooner than expected. 2 days passed in a blur of sleep, medication, and gradually improving mobility. Mrs. Choi visited constantly, bringing food, books, and conversation. She talked about her childhood in Korea, about immigrating to America, about her love of gardening and classical music. She asked Maya questions too, gentle ones, and Maya found herself answering more honestly than she had with anyone in years. She didn't tell Mrs. Choi everything. Not about the shelter, not about the nights she'd gone hungry, not about the crushing weight of grief that had defined the last 3 years. But she told her enough. About growing up in foster care, about learning to fight because it was fight or be broken, about meeting her husband at a community center and falling in love with his gentleness, his belief that the world could be good. Mrs. Choi listened with the kind of attention that made Maya feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in forever. Jin, by contrast, was rarely present. Maya caught glimpses of him, disappearing into rooms with men in suits, taking phone calls in rapid Korean, his voice sharp with authority. Once, she heard shouting from somewhere in the house, followed by a gunshot, and her blood ran cold. But when she asked Mrs. Choi about it later, the old woman simply smiled and said, "Business matters, nothing for you to worry about." On the 3rd day, Maya was finally strong enough to walk, slowly and painfully, with Dr. Yoon's help. He guided her through the East Wing, where her room was located, and Maya got her first real look at her temporary prison, or sanctuary, she wasn't sure which. The place was enormous. Hallways branched in every direction, lined with art that belonged in museums. Every surface gleamed, every corner was watched by discreet cameras. And everywhere, there were men, hard-eyed, well-dressed men who moved with military precision and carried guns in shoulder holsters that their jackets didn't quite conceal. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. What does he do? Maya asked Dr. Yoon as they made their slow way back to her room. Jin Choi, what kind of business requires this kind of security? Dr. Yoon's expression shuddered. That's not a question I can answer. Can't or won't, both. He helped her back into bed. Take my advice, Ms. Johnson. Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. But Maya had never been good at taking advice. That evening, when Mrs. Choi brought dinner, a spread of Korean dishes that made Maya's mouth water, she asked again, Your son, what does he do? Mrs. Choi's hand paused halfway to her mouth, chopsticks suspended. He's a businessman. What kind of business? Import, export, mostly, some real estate, investments. The old woman's voice was carefully neutral. And the guns? The guards? We've had security concerns. After what happened in the alley, surely you understand. Maya set down her own chopsticks. Mrs. Choi, with respect, I'm not stupid. Those men in the alley said boss said no witnesses. They were sent to kill you. And your son, the way people look at him, the way they move when he speaks, that's not fear of a normal businessman. Mrs. Choi was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed, suddenly looking every one of her 70 years. You're right, she said softly. You're not stupid, and you deserve honesty after what you've done for me. She met Maya's eyes. My son operates in spaces between the law. He controls territory, businesses, people. He's built an empire in the shadows, and that empire has made him both very powerful and very dangerous. He's a criminal. He's my son, Mrs. Choi's voice sharpened. And he is not a monster, whatever you might think. He has rules. He doesn't deal in drugs. He doesn't traffic people. He doesn't prey on the weak. His empire exists because he provides order where the law cannot or will not. That's a nice way of saying he's a gangster. And you're a fighter who throws herself in front of knives for strangers. We all do what we must to survive in this world, child. Who are we to judge each other's choices? Maya didn't have an answer to that. She thought about her own life, about the compromises she'd made, the gray areas she'd navigated. Was she really so different? She'd stolen food when hungry, had hurt people who tried to hurt her first, had bent or broken rules when survival demanded it. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked finally. Because you asked, because you're staying in my home, and because Mrs. Choi reached across the table, took Maya's hand again. Because I like you. You have fire in you, strength. You remind me of myself many years ago, and I would not have you walk blindly into danger. Is that what staying here is? Danger? It can be. My son's world is not safe, Maya, but it can also be, if you're strong enough, brave enough, a place of opportunity, a place where someone like you, someone the rest of the world has overlooked, can become powerful in your own right. Maya's heart raced. What are you saying? I'm saying that when you're healed, you'll have a choice to make. Leave with your compensation and go back to your old life, or... Mrs. Choi's eyes glittered. Stay. Work for my son. Let him teach you to channel that fighting spirit into something more than mere survival. You're offering me a job. With the Korean Mafia. Mrs. Choi smiled. Such a crude term. But yes, essentially. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was everything Maya had tried to avoid her entire adult life. Her husband had been a good man, a peaceful man. He'd believed in doing things the right way, the legal way. He'd worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat, had never raised his voice in anger, had taught their son to be kind, to help others, to stay away from violence. And where had it gotten him? Where had it gotten their son? Both dead, caught in crossfire from a gang war they'd had nothing to do with. Innocent casualties of someone else's violence. 3 years ago, in their own neighborhood. Maya had been at work when it happened, had come home to police tape and covered bodies, and a life that would never be whole again. I need to think about it, Maya said, pushing away the memories that always threatened to drown her. Of course. You have time. Mrs. Choi squeezed her hand once more, then rose. Rest well, dear one. Tomorrow, if you're feeling stronger, I'll show you the garden. It's quite beautiful this time of year." After she left, Maya lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thoughts churning. Part of her wanted to run, to get out of this place and never look back. But another part, a part she'd kept buried for 3 years, whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was an opportunity to never be powerless again, to never be invisible, to have the strength to protect, to fight back, to matter. She was still wrestling with the question when Dr. Yoon arrived the next morning for his daily examination. He seemed distracted, kept glancing toward the door as he checked her vitals and changed her dressing. His hands shook slightly. "Everything okay?" Maya asked. "Fine, everything's fine," but his voice said otherwise. "Dr. Yoon?" He met her eyes, and something in his expression made her breath catch. Fear, guilt, sorrow. "I can't," he stopped, shook his head. "Your recovery is progressing well. You should be at full strength in another week." "That's not what you were going to say." "It's all I can say, for now." He finished taping down the new bandage and left quickly, practically fleeing the room. Maya stared after him, unease prickling down her spine. What the hell was that about? The day crawled by. Mrs. Choi kept her promise, helping Maya make the slow journey down to the ground floor and out into the garden. It was beautiful, a carefully cultivated oasis of green in the middle of the city. Cherry trees shed pink blossoms onto manicured paths. A koi pond reflected the sky. Stone benches offered places to rest. They sat together on a bench, watching the koi swim lazy circles. Mrs. Choi told stories about Jin as a child, how he'd been small and gentle before life had hardened him, how he'd cried when a bird died, had wanted to save every stray animal. "What changed him?" Maya asked. Mrs. Choi's expression darkened. She touched her chest absently, and Maya noticed she took a slow, careful breath before speaking. "His father, my husband, he was a hard man, believed strength came from cruelty. He beat the softness out of Jin, tried to beat it out of me too." She touched her wrist, and Maya saw old scars there. "Jin killed him when he was 17, shot him in his own office to protect me, and became exactly what his father wanted." "No." Mrs. Choi's voice was fierce. "Jin has his father's strength, his ruthlessness when necessary, but he also has my heart, deep inside where he's buried it. He protects the weak, even as he leads the strong. He's not a good man, perhaps, but he's not evil either. He's surviving in a world that tried to destroy him." Something about the way she said heart made Maya look at her more closely. Mrs. Choi's color wasn't quite right. Her breathing, though controlled, seemed labored. "Are you feeling all right?" Maya asked. "Just tired, dear. These old bones aren't what they used to be." Mrs. Choi smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Come, let's head back inside." They were heading back when raised voices stopped them. Maya recognized Jin's voice, cold and furious, coming from an office just off the main hall. "Don't care what his excuse is, he knew the consequences when he betrayed me." "Boss, please, if we could just—" "No, make it clean, no suffering, but make it public. I want everyone to know what happens when you turn on me." Silence, then footsteps, heavy and resigned. A man emerged from the office, his face pale, and hurried past Maya and Mrs. Choi without acknowledging them. Mrs. Choi's grip on Maya's arm tightened. "Come, you should rest." But Maya had frozen. That voice, Jin's voice, cold and commanding, ordering someone's death as casually as someone might order lunch. The reality of who these people were, what they did, crashed over her like a wave. This was the world Mrs. Choi was inviting her into, a world where life was cheap and death was currency, a world not so different from the one that had taken her family. Maya barely remembered returning to her room. She sat on the edge of her bed, her mind racing, her heart pounding. Images flashed through her head, her husband's face, her son's laugh, the police officer's expression when he told her they were gone. "A gang dispute," he'd said, Wrong place, wrong time. Witnesses said it was Korean and black gangs fighting over territory. Korean gangs. Jin was Korean. Powerful. Had been in this business for years, by the look of things. No. No, it was impossible. The city was huge. There were lots of gangs. Lots of powerful men. It couldn't be. But what if? The thought took root. Dark and insidious. Maya forced herself to breathe. To think rationally. She had no evidence. No proof. Just paranoia born from trauma and coincidence. But she needed to know. Needed to be sure. When Dr. Yoon arrived that evening, she was ready. The moment he entered, she saw it again. That guilt in his eyes, that weight he was carrying. "Tell me," she said. "Whatever you've been trying to say. Tell me now." Dr. Yoon looked around nervously, checking the cameras in the corners. Then he did something strange. He pulled out his phone and played music, some loud K-pop song, placing it on the bedside table. "The cameras have audio," he whispered, leaning close. "But not over music. We have maybe 5 minutes." "What's going on?" Dr. Yoon's hands twisted together. He looked like a man about to confess a mortal sin. "There's something about Mrs. Choi you need to know. Something Jin would kill me for telling you, but..." He took a shuddering breath. "She's dying, Maya." The words hit like a fist to the gut. "What?" "She has a severe heart condition. Dilated cardiomyopathy. Advanced. Stage. She's been on the transplant list for 2 years, but her blood type is rare, and her condition is so deteriorated that most donor hearts won't work. The stress from the attack in the alley accelerated her decline." Dr. Yoon's voice cracked. "She has weeks, maybe less." Maya felt the room tilt. Mrs. Choi, kind, warm Mrs. Choi who'd shown her nothing but compassion. "Does Jin know?" "He knows. He's been desperate, trying everything. Bribes, international searches, even black market contacts. Nothing has worked." Dr. Yoon's eyes met hers, and Maya saw her death in them before he even spoke. "Until your blood work came back." Maya's blood went cold. "No. You're a perfect match. Not just compatible. Perfect. Your heart could save her life, Maya. You're probably the only chance she has." The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I'm saying that when Jin finds out, and he will find out, I can't hide this forever. He'll do whatever it takes to save his mother. He'll offer you money, more money than you've ever dreamed of. He'll make it seem like a choice. Dr. Yoon gripped her shoulders. "But Maya, with a man like Jin, it's never really a choice. And if money doesn't work, he'll just take it. I don't know. Maybe. Probably." Dr. Yoon's voice broke. "Jin is my oldest friend. I've known him since we were boys. But his mother is his weakness, his only soft spot. Without her, he becomes something I don't want to think about. If he believes taking your heart is the only way to save her..." Maya's mind raced. She should run, should get out now, tonight, disappear into the city before Jin found out. But even as she thought it, she knew it was impossible. She could barely walk without pain. She had no money, nowhere to go. And Jin's reach, she'd seen the scope of his organization, the loyalty he commanded. If he wanted to find her, he would. "Why are you telling me this?" Maya asked. "If he's your friend..." "Because you deserve to know. Because you're a good person who saved a life without thinking about the cost, and now that goodness might get you killed." Dr. Yoon released her shoulders. "I can help you leave. Tonight. There's a service entrance, a gap in security during shift change at 3 a.m. I can get you there, get you out, and Mrs. Choi dies. She's dying anyway. It buys you time." Maya was quiet for a long moment, thinking. About Mrs. Choi's kindness, about the way she'd looked at Maya like she mattered, about the fact that for the first time in 3 years, Maya had felt something other than numbness, about her husband's voice in her memory. The world is cruel, but that doesn't mean we have to be. Every act of kindness matters, Maya. Every life saved is a victory against the darkness. He'd believed that, right up until the darkness had taken him. No, Maya said quietly. Maya, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Maya met Dr. Yoon's eyes. Mrs. Choi is dying. She's been kind to me. If my death can save her. Are you insane? Maybe, or maybe I'm finally seeing clearly for the first time in years. Maya's voice was steady, though her hand shook. I've been dead inside for 3 years, Dr. Yoon, just going through motions, surviving, but not living. If I die tomorrow, who would miss me? Who would even notice? That doesn't mean your life has no value, but it does mean I get to choose what value it has. And if I can use it to save someone good, someone who makes the world a little less dark. Maya's throat tightened. Maybe that's the best thing I could do with it. Dr. Yoon stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. You'd give your life for a woman you've known for 3 days. She was kind to me when no one else was. She saw me when I was invisible. That's worth something. That's worth... Maya's voice broke. That's worth everything. I won't do it. Dr. Yoon shook his head violently. I took an oath. First, do no harm. I will not kill a healthy patient, no matter how willing to save another. Then don't tell Jin. Not yet. Give me a few more days. Let me spend time with her. Maya swallowed hard. Let me say goodbye, I guess. Dr. Yoon looked tortured. A few days won't change anything. Maybe not, but they'll be mine. Please. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. 1 week. That's all I can give you before her condition deteriorates to the point where I have no choice but to tell him. After that, it's in Jin's hands, Maya managed to smile. Thank you, Dr. Yoon, for caring, for trying to save me even when I don't want to be saved. He left without another word, taking his music with him. Maya sat in the silence, letting the weight of her decision settle over her like a blanket. She was going to die. She'd known it, really, since the moment Dr. Yoon had said, perfect match. Known it. With the same certainty she'd known her husband and son were gone when she'd seen those covered bodies. Some truths you just feel in your bones. But she had a week. 7 days to feel alive, to matter, to make a choice that was wholly her own. She'd make them count. The next few days passed in a strange, dreamlike haze. Maya threw herself into recovery, pushing her body harder than Dr. Yoon recommended. She walked the grounds, regained her strength, learned the layout of the compound, not to escape. She'd made her choice, but because she wanted to feel her body work, wanted to test its limits while she still could. Mrs. Choi was delighted by her progress, completely unaware of the clock ticking down in Maya's chest. They spent hours together, cooking, talking, laughing. Mrs. Choi taught her how to make kimchi, shared family recipes, told stories about her life, and Maya memorized every moment, the sound of Mrs. Choi's laugh, the way she hummed while she cooked, the gentleness in her hands when she adjusted Maya's technique with the knife. Jin, meanwhile, had become an unavoidable presence. He was there at dinner, watching Maya with those dark, unreadable eyes. There in the garden when she walked. There in the hallway when she turned a corner. Not speaking much, but always watching, as if trying to solve a puzzle she represented. And Maya found herself watching back, studying him. This man who had ordered death so casually, who commanded fear with a word, but who touched his mother with such careful gentleness, who looked at Maya like she was something rare and breakable. On the 5th day, something shifted between them. Maya was in the library, a massive room lined floor to ceiling with books, when Jin entered. She'd been reading, curled up in a leather chair that probably cost more than a year's rent, and hadn't heard him approach. You read Russian, Jin said, startling her. Maya looked down at the book in her hands. Crime and Punishment, in the original Russian. I taught myself. When I was in foster care, the library was the only place I felt safe, and I ran out of English books. Raskolnikov, Jin said, nodding at the book. A man who commits murder and then tortures himself with guilt. Do you identify with him? I identify with someone who wants to matter, who wants his existence to mean something. Maya closed the book, though hopefully with less murder. Jin's mouth quirked. Not quite a smile, but close. I've always preferred Sonia, the prostitute who saves him with love and faith, despite having every reason to be as cynical as he is. You've read it. I've read everything in this library. Books were my escape too when I was young. When my father... He stopped, jaw tightening. Before... They were quiet for a moment. Then Jin moved closer, leaning against the bookshelf beside her chair. Close enough that Maya could smell his cologne, could see the faint stubble on his jaw. You're healing faster than expected, he said. I'm a quick healer. Or you're pushing yourself too hard. His eyes narrowed. Dr. Yoon says you've been asking about my mother's health, about her heart. Maya's pulse spiked, but she kept her voice steady. I care about her. She's been kind to me. She likes you, talks about you constantly. Jin's expression softened almost imperceptibly. She says you remind her of herself when she was young, strong, stubborn, willing to fight. Is that a compliment? From her, yes. She doesn't give them lightly. Jin studied her face. My mother thinks I should offer you a permanent position. Training, resources, a place in my organization. And what do you think? I think... Jin paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I think you're dangerous. Dangerous. Not to me, to yourself. You have this need to protect people, to throw yourself into harm's way for strangers. In my world, that gets you killed. Maybe I'm not afraid of dying. The words hung in the air between them. Jin's eyes sharpened, searching her face. Everyone's afraid of dying, he said quietly. Not everyone. Some people have already lost everything that made life worth living. For them, death is just... Maya shrugged. The next thing. Jin moved then, sudden and fluid. He crouched beside her chair, bringing them eye to eye. Is that what you think? That you've lost everything? I know I have. My husband, my son. 3 years ago, in a gang dispute. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maya's voice was flat, reciting facts. After they died, I lost the apartment because I couldn't work enough to pay rent while I was grieving. Lost my job because I couldn't focus. Lost myself somewhere in the process. Jin's hand came up, almost touched her face, then dropped. I'm sorry. Are you? Yes. And strangely, he sounded like he meant it. No one should lose their family to violence. No one should have to carry that weight. But you've made people carry it, ordered deaths, caused the kind of pain I've lived through. Yes. Jin didn't flinch from the accusation. I have. I won't pretend otherwise. In my world, violence is currency. Power is survival. I've done terrible things to protect what's mine. Does that include your mother? Especially my mother. Jin's voice turned fierce. She's the only good thing left in my life. The only person who still sees me as human. I would burn the world to keep her safe. Even if it meant doing something unforgivable? There is no unforgivable. Not when it comes to her. Maya's breath caught. There was something in his eyes, a desperate edge that made her think Dr. Yoon was right. If Jin found out about the heart match, he would do whatever it took. Morality would be a luxury he couldn't afford. But there was something else too. A loneliness so profound it made Maya's chest ache. This man who commanded armies, who made people tremble with a word, was utterly alone. Except for his dying mother. Without thinking, Maya reached out and touched his face. Jin went still, his eyes widening slightly. You're not a monster, she said softly. You're just a man who's been hurt so badly he thinks he has to hurt first to survive. Maya, but you're wrong. There's still something human in you. I see it when you look at your mother. I see it... She paused, her hand still on his cheek. I see it when you look at me. Jin's hand came up, covered hers. His skin was warm, his touch gentle despite the calluses that spoke of violence. They stayed like that, frozen in a moment that felt stolen from time. Then Jin pulled back, standing abruptly. You should rest. You're still recovering. He left quickly, almost fleeing, and Maya was alone again with her books and her racing heart. Still watching? Subscribe so you don't miss part 2, because this is just the beginning. The remaining days blurred together. Maya spent every moment she could with Mrs. Choi, soaking up her warmth, her stories, her presence. And she spent her nights thinking about Jin, about the man behind the monster, about the wounded boy who'd killed his father and never stopped killing. On the 7th day, everything changed. Maya woke to commotion, shouting, running footsteps. She threw on a robe and stumbled into the hallway to find Dr. Yoon racing toward Mrs. Choi's room, medical bag in hand. What's happening? Maya called after him. Mrs. Choi collapsed. Her heart. We're out of time. Maya's blood turned to ice. She followed, her own heart pounding, and found chaos in Mrs. Choi's room. The old woman was on the floor, her lips blue, her chest still. Jin knelt beside her, his face drained of all color, pressing his fingers to her neck. She has a pulse, but it's weak. She's not breathing. Jin's voice was barely controlled panic. Do something. Dr. Yoon dropped beside him, started chest compressions. How long has she been down? I don't know. 1 minute, maybe 2. I came in and she was... Jin's voice cracked. You have to save her. I'm trying. Get my equipment, now. Jin's men scrambled to obey. Maya stood frozen in the doorway, watching the woman who'd shown her such kindness fight for her life. Dr. Yoon worked with desperate efficiency, but Maya could see it in his face. They were losing her. We need to get her to a hospital, one of the guards said. No time. Dr. Yoon's compressions faltered for a split second as he looked at Jin. Boss, there's something you need to know. Something I should have told you days ago. Jin's eyes snapped to him, wild and terrifying. What? Maya, Dr. Yoon's voice broke. She's a perfect match for a heart transplant. I found out a week ago. She's probably your mother's only chance. The room went silent except for the sound of Dr. Yoon's compressions. Jin turned slowly to look at Maya, and the expression on his face made her stomach drop. You knew, he said, his voice deadly quiet. You've known for a week that you could save her. Jin, Maya started. How long? The roar echoed through the room. Jin was on his feet, crossing to her in 3 strides. How long have you known my mother was dying while you played happy family with her? I needed time to... Time? My mother is dying and you needed time? Jin grabbed her shoulders, and for a moment Maya thought he might actually hurt her. What gave you the right to keep this from me? She wanted to choose, Dr. Yoon said, still working on Mrs. Choi. I told her about the match, about your mother's condition, and she was willing to be a donor, but she asked for a few days first. I thought... You thought what? That a week would make a difference? Jin released Maya, turned back to his mother. Do it. Now, prep for surgery. Jin, I can't just... We need an OR, I have all of that. In the basement. I had it built years ago in case we ever found a donor. Jin's voice turned cold, controlled, the panic buried under ice. Get her down there. Prep Maya. We're doing this now. Boss, she's stabilized for the moment. We have no time. Jin looked at Maya, and there was something broken in his eyes. You were willing to do this. You said yes. So we're doing it now. Before you change your mind, or before... He stopped, his jaw clenching. Now. Everything happened fast after that. Mrs. Choi was rushed to the basement on a gurney, still unconscious. The space Jin had built was indeed a full surgical suite, complete with everything Dr. Yoon would need. 2 more doctors arrived, specialists on Jin's payroll, and they began prepping Mrs. Choi immediately. Dr. Yoon pulled Maya aside to a prep area. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I tried to give you more time, but her heart, it's okay. Maya's voice was surprisingly calm. She'd had a week to make peace with this. I made my choice. I'm ready. Maya, you don't have to do this. We can tell him no, and she dies. Your friend loses the only person keeping him human. No. Maya squeezed Dr. Yoon's hand. It's okay. Really. I've had more good days in the past week than I've had in 3 years. That's enough. Dr. Yoon's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded. He began prepping her for surgery. IV line, monitors, explaining the procedure, though they both knew she'd never wake up from it. Jin appeared in the doorway, still in his clothes from earlier, looking strange and out of place in the sterile environment. His eyes found Maya's. I need a moment, he said to Dr. Yoon. Everyone out. Dr. Yoon hesitated, but obeyed. The other doctors followed, leaving Jin and Maya alone in the pre-op area. Jin stared at her for a long moment, and Maya watched him struggle with something. Rage warred with guilt, warred with desperation in his expression. I don't want to do this, he finally said. You have to. No, I don't. I could let her go. I could. His hands clenched into fists. Why are you doing this? Why are you willing to die for her? Because she was kind to me. Because she made me feel human again. Maya's voice was steady. Because someone should benefit from my death. And I'd rather it be her than just random violence like what took my family. Jin flinched. Your husband and son. The gang dispute 3 years ago. You know about that? I had my men research you thoroughly. Jin moved closer. I know everything about you, Maya Johnson, including the fact that you've been trying to die slowly for 3 years. This isn't noble sacrifice. This is just a faster exit. The words stung because they were partially true, but only partially. Maybe it started that way, Maya admitted, but it's not that anymore. I'm not doing this because I want to die. I'm doing this because I want my death to mean something. Because your mother deserves to live and Her voice caught. I'm already borrowed time. I've been dead inside for so long. At least this way, something good comes from it. I can't let you do this. Jin's voice was raw. I can't. My mother would never forgive me if she knew. And what? Jin moved then, closing the distance between them until they were inches apart. You make me feel something I thought I'd killed years ago. I don't have a name for it, but He stopped, struggling for words. I've spent 10 minutes with you total over the past week. Brief conversations, stolen glances, but every time I see you, every time I hear your voice, something in me that was dead wakes up. And now I'm supposed to let you die to save my mother? Maya's breath caught. Jin, tell me there's another way. Tell me I don't have to choose between the only 2 people who've made me feel human in a decade. There is no other way. You know that. Maya reached up, touched his face like she had in the library. But Jin, listen to me. Your mother needs you. The world needs people like her. Kind people, good people. And you need her to stay good yourself. Without her, I become a monster. Yes, Maya's eyes stung. So save her. Do this terrible thing and then live with it. Use it to be better. Keep your humanity because of her, not in spite of what you did to keep her alive. Jin's eyes were wet. She'd never seen him cry, but he was close now. It's not fair. It's not... I just found you. I just started feeling again. And now, I know. Maya pulled him down, pressed her forehead to his. I know, but this is what has to happen. So promise me something. Anything. Stay human. Don't let this turn you into the monster your father wanted. Be the man your mother believes you are. The man She stopped, swallowed. The man I wish I'd had more time to know. Jin made a sound like a wounded animal. His arms came around her, held her like she was the only real thing in the world. This isn't fair, he whispered into her hair. Nothing ever is. Maya held him back, memorizing the feel of his arms, the sound of his heartbeat. Take care of her. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye properly. Tell her she made me feel seen. Maya, Jin pulled back, looked at her face like he was memorizing it. There's something I need to tell you. About 3 years ago, about your husband and son. The door burst open. One of the doctors, his face pale with urgency. We need her now. Mrs. Choi is crashing. We're losing her. The moment shattered. Maya met Jin's eyes one more time, saw agony and guilt, and something that might have been love if they'd had more time. It's okay, she said softly, even though she didn't know what he'd been about to confess. Whatever it is, Jin, I forgive you. Then she let Dr. Yoon lead her to the operating table. The room was cold, too bright, filled with machines that beeped and hummed. She lay down, and Dr. Yoon approached with a syringe. I'm so sorry, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. I could have. You gave me a gift, Maya said. A week of feeling alive. Thank you for that. Dr. Yoon pressed the syringe to her IV port. Count backward from 10. Maya nodded. She looked toward the doorway where Jin stood, his face a mask of anguish. Their eyes met and held. 10, Maya whispered. 9. 8. Jin's lips moved. She thought he said, I'm sorry, but she couldn't be sure. 7. 6. 5. The world began to blur, reality sliding away like water through her fingers. 4. 3. She thought about her son's laugh, her husband's smile, Mrs. Choi's kindness, Jin's broken expression. 2. Dr. Yoon's hand was shaking as he injected the sedative. But something was wrong. Maya could feel it. This wasn't the smooth slide into unconsciousness she'd expected. It was more like being pulled underwater, but slowly, carefully. 1. The darkness took her, but not to death. To something else. Something in between. Dr. Yoon stood over Maya's unconscious body, his hand still on the syringe, and made a choice that would damn him or save him. He wasn't sure which. He hadn't injected anesthetic. He'd injected a carefully calculated dose of sedatives, enough to put her into a deep medical coma, but not enough to prep her for death. He couldn't do it. Couldn't take a scalpel to this brave, broken woman who'd been willing to die for a stranger's kindness. His oath wouldn't let him. His conscience wouldn't let him. But Mrs. Choi was dying in the next room. Dr. Yoon worked quickly, checking Maya's vitals, ensuring the coma was stable. Then he grabbed his phone, made a call he'd been dreading for days. This is Dr. Yoon, patient ID, Choi Seon. I need an emergency helicopter transport to Seoul National University Hospital. I have a perfect heart-match donor standing by. A lie, but a necessary one. Authorization code, Jin 7S734. Jin's personal code. Dr. Yoon would be killed for using it without permission. But if this worked, if he could get Mrs. Choi to Seoul where they had the resources for experimental treatment that might buy her time, then maybe, just maybe, he could save them both. He hung up and returned to Mrs. Choi's side. She was stable for now, her heart beating weakly, but steadily. He'd lied to Jin about how critical she was. She'd collapsed. Yes, but it wasn't immediately fatal. He had hours, maybe a day, time enough to try something desperate. What are you doing? Jin appeared in the doorway, his voice flat. Dr. Yoon's blood turned to ice. Boss, why isn't Maya on the table? Why aren't you prepping for the transplant? Because there's another option. Dr. Yoon spoke quickly, desperately. A procedure in Seoul. Experimental, but they've had success with it. We can get your mother there in 6 hours. If it works, she might live for a few months. Maybe a year. Jin moved into the room, and Dr. Yoon had never seen him look more dangerous. You're gambling my mother's life on a maybe when you have a certainty. The certainty requires me to commit murder, Jin. She's healthy. Willing, yes, but healthy. I can't. You will. Jin's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Or I'll find someone who will. Then do it. Dr. Yoon straightened, meeting his friend's eyes. Find someone else, because I won't. I can't. Not this. Not her. They stared at each other, two men who'd been friends for 20 years, now standing on opposite sides of an impossible choice. You're choosing a stranger over my mother, Jin said. I'm choosing to be a doctor, to keep my oath, to not become, Dr. Yoon's voice broke, to not become as monstrous as this world wants us to be. For a long moment, Dr. Yoon thought Jin would kill him, saw the calculation in his eyes, the weighing of options. Then Jin's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his expression shifted. The helicopter you called, he said, flatly. For Seoul. Jin, how long do we have, truthfully? With the medication I'm giving her, 12 hours, maybe 18. In Seoul they can stabilize her. Try the new procedure. It's risky, but it's a chance. Jin looked at his mother, then at the door behind which Maya lay unconscious. And Maya? In a medically induced coma. Stable. She'll wake up in a few days. You lied to me. Yes. Dr. Yoon didn't flinch. I did, and I'll face whatever consequences come from that. But I won't kill her, Jin. Not for this. Not for anything. Jin was quiet for so long that Dr. Yoon started to plan his escape route. Then, to his shock, Jin nodded. Get my mother to Seoul. Try your experimental procedure. Jin's voice was hollow. But if she dies, if your gamble costs me my mother, I'll make you watch while I kill everyone you've ever loved, and then I'll kill you slowly. Do you understand? I understand. And Maya stays in the coma until my mother is stable. I don't want her waking up until I know if I need her or not. Dr. Yoon's blood chilled, but he nodded. It was the best deal he was going to get. The helicopter arrived 30 minutes later. Mrs. Choi was loaded aboard, still unconscious, stable but fragile. Jin went with her, but before he left, he stopped by the room where Maya lay sleeping. Dr. Yoon watched from the doorway as Jin approached her bed. The mafia boss stood there for a long moment, just looking at her face. Then he leaned down and pressed his lips to her forehead. I'm sorry, Jin whispered, for everything. For what I am, for what I've done, for what I might still have to do. You deserve better than this. Better than me. He straightened, and when he turned to leave, his face was that cold mask again. Keep her alive, Dr. Yoon, until I decide what to do with her. Then he was gone, and Dr. Yoon was left alone with an unconscious woman and the weight of the choice he'd just made. 3 days passed in tense silence. Dr. Yoon kept Maya in the medically induced coma, monitoring her vitals, ensuring she remained stable. He told Jin's men that she was recovering from complications, not entirely a lie. The complication being that Dr. Yoon was protecting her from their boss. On the 3rd day, Jin called. How is she? No preamble, no greeting. Stable. I'll wake her tomorrow as planned. Don't. Dr. Yoon's hand tightened on the phone. What? The procedure in Seoul. It's working. My mother is responding. The doctors say if she continues to improve, she could have years, not months. Jin's voice was carefully controlled. But it's not certain yet. Keep Maya under until we know for sure. Jin, she's been under for 3 days. Any longer risks? I don't care about the risks. Keep her under until I say otherwise. The line went dead. Dr. Yoon stared at the phone, his stomach churning. He knew what Jin was doing, keeping Amaya as insurance. If Mrs. Choi's recovery failed, he'd still have a backup plan. The thought made Dr. Yoon sick. But what choice did he have? If he woke Maya now, Jin would know immediately. Would come back, would... Dr. Yoon looked at Maya's peaceful face, at the steady rise and fall of her chest. She'd been willing to die for Mrs. Choi, had made her peace with it, but she'd also been given a gift, a week of feeling alive, of mattering. Didn't she deserve more than this? More than being kept unconscious as a spare parts inventory? Dr. Yoon made a decision that would probably get him killed. He began the process of waking her up. It would take hours for the sedatives to wear off enough for her to regain consciousness. Hours during which Jin might call back, might change his mind, might discover what Dr. Yoon was doing. But Dr. Yoon was done being a coward, done choosing fear over what was right. He sat beside Maya's bed and waited, watching the monitors, watching her face, praying she'd wake up before Jin found out what he'd done. Maya's return to consciousness was slow, like swimming up from the bottom of a deep ocean. She could hear sounds first, beeping machines, quiet voices, then sensation, the scratch of sheets against her skin, the pull of an IV in her arm. Then finally, she could open her eyes. The ceiling was unfamiliar, white, sterile, medical. For a moment, Maya thought she was in a hospital. Then memory crashed back. Mrs. Choi, the collapse, the surgery. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Her whole body felt heavy, disconnected. A hand pressed gently on her shoulder. Easy, don't move too quickly. Dr. Yoon. Maya focused on his face, saw exhaustion and relief there. What? Her voice came out as a croak. What happened? The surgery? There was no surgery. Dr. Yoon helped her sip water from a straw. I didn't do the transplant. I couldn't. Maya's mind struggled to process this. But Mrs. Choi, she was dying. She's alive, in Seoul. They're trying an experimental procedure. It's working so far. Dr. Yoon's expression was complex. You've been in a medically induced coma for 4 days. 4 days? Maya tried to sit up again, and this time Dr. Yoon helped her. The room spun briefly, then settled. Why would you? Because I couldn't kill you. Because I'm a doctor, and I took an oath and Dr. Yoon's voice broke. I couldn't do it, Maya. Even with your permission. Even knowing what it might cost. Maya stared at him, trying to understand. So I'm alive. Mrs. Choi is alive. For now, the procedure could still fail. If it does, Dr. Yoon didn't finish, but Maya understood. If it failed, Jin would come back for her heart. Does he know that you didn't do the transplant? He knows. He's the one who agreed to try the procedure in Seoul. But Maya? Dr. Yoon gripped her hand. He told me to keep you in the coma until we know if his mother will survive. He's using you as insurance. If she dies, he'll want my heart anyway, Maya finished. She should feel afraid. Should feel angry. But all she felt was a strange, hollow numbness. So why did you wake me up? Because it's not right. Because you deserve to make your own choices, not be kept as spare parts. Dr. Yoon's eyes were fierce. And because you need to leave. Now. Before Jin realizes you're awake. Maya looked around the room. At the monitors. The IV. The beautiful prison that Jin had built. Where would I go? I have money. Not much, but enough to get you out of the city. You could start over, somewhere Jin's reach doesn't extend. You could run. You want me to run. I want you to live, Maya. Really live, not just exist in the shadow of this. Maya was quiet for a long moment. She thought about what Dr. Yoon was offering. Freedom. A chance to disappear, to build a new life somewhere Jin couldn't find her. But she also thought about Mrs. Choi, fighting for her life and soul. About Jin's broken expression, when he'd held her. About the fact that she'd made a promise. No, she said finally. Maya. I made a choice, Dr. Yoon. I chose to give my life if it meant saving hers. The fact that you gave me a few more days doesn't change that. Maya met his eyes. If Mrs. Choi dies, I want Jin to have my heart. I want to keep that promise. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of running. Tired of being powerless. Maya's voice was steady. For once in my life, I have something valuable enough to trade. A life for a life. If that's what it takes, it's not your job to save her. Or him. Maybe not. But it's my choice. Maya squeezed Dr. Yoon's hand. Thank you, though, for trying to save me, for giving me the option to run. It means more than you know. Dr. Yoon looked like he wanted to argue more, but the sound of footsteps in the hallway stopped him. He tensed, and Maya saw fear flash across his face. The door opened. Jin stood in the doorway, still in his clothes, from days ago, looking like he hadn't slept. His eyes went to Maya, widened when he saw she was awake. Dr. Yoon, Jin said, his voice dangerously quiet. I thought I told you to keep her under. I woke her up. Dr. Yoon stood, putting himself between Jin and Maya. Because it was wrong to keep her like that. Because what she deserves is not your decision to make. Jin moved into the room, and Dr. Yoon tensed. Get out. Jin, out, now, before I forget we're friends. Dr. Yoon looked at Maya, conflict clear on his face. Maya nodded. It's okay. I'll be fine. He left reluctantly, and Maya was alone with Jin. The air between them was thick with tension, with things unsaid. You're awake, Jin said unnecessarily. Dr. Yoon said your mother's procedure is working. It is. The doctors are optimistic. Jin moved closer, stopped at the foot of her bed. Which means you might get to live after all. Lucky you. There was bitterness in his voice, anger, but underneath, Maya heard something else. Relief, maybe? Or regret. I would have done it, Maya said quietly. If it had come to that, I meant what I said. I know, which makes you either the bravest person I've ever met, or the most broken. Jin's eyes were hard. I haven't decided which yet. Can't I be both? Something flickered across Jin's face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Yes, I suppose you can. They were quiet for a moment. Then Maya asked the question that had been burning in her since she woke up. What happens now? Now? Now we wait. If my mother continues to improve, you'll be free to go. I'll give you money, enough to start over wherever you want, and we'll never see each other again. And if she doesn't improve? Jin's jaw clenched. Then Dr. Yoon will do what needs to be done, and you'll die knowing you saved the only good person left in my life. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. It never has. Jin turned toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For all of this. You deserved better than to get pulled into my world. Jin, Maya started, but he was already leaving. She listened to his footsteps fade down the hallway, then let out a shaky breath. She was alive. For now. But her future hung in the balance, dependent on whether a woman she barely knew would survive an experimental procedure in a foreign country. And if she didn't, if Mrs. Choi died, then Maya would fulfill her promise, would give her heart, her life, to save Jin from becoming the complete monster his father had tried to create. It should terrify her, should make her want to take Dr. Yoon's offer and run. But all Maya felt was that same strange calm, the certainty that whatever happened next, she'd made the right choice. For the first time in 3 years, her life, or death, would mean something. That was enough. 2 more days passed. Maya recovered her strength, though Dr. Yoon insisted she stay in bed. Jin was absent, presumably in Seoul with his mother. The house felt emptier without him, quieter. On the 7th day since she'd first fallen asleep counting backward, Dr. Yoon entered her room with an expression she couldn't read. What is it? Maya asked, her heart racing. Is she... Mrs. Choi's awake, stable. The procedure worked. Dr. Yoon's voice was thick with emotion. She's going to live, Maya. She's going to live. Relief crashed over Maya so intensely she thought she might cry. Thank God. Jin called an hour ago. He'll be back tomorrow to settle things with you. Dr. Yoon sat beside her bed. This is your last chance, Maya. I can get you out tonight. By the time Jin returns, you'll be gone. He won't look for you. His mother is safe, so you're no longer useful to him. You'll be free. Maya thought about it. Really thought about it. Freedom. A new life. The chance to disappear. But she also thought about the look in Jin's eyes when he'd held her. The way Mrs. Choi had made her feel seen. The fact that, for one brief week, she'd mattered to someone. "I want to see her," Maya said. "Mrs. Choi, before I leave, I want to say goodbye properly." Dr. Yoon nodded slowly. "I'll arrange it. Jin can bring you to Seoul tomorrow, let you visit. And after, I'll decide what comes next." But Maya already knew. She wasn't running. Not from this. Not anymore. Tomorrow she would face Jin, would say goodbye to Mrs. Choi, and then she would finally, truly, choose the rest of her life. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell, because you need to see what happens when Maya faces Jin and learns a truth that will change everything.